The engine swap trap is being set right now, and these new 2026 EPA rules have a single goal: to kill DIY repair. For years, the repower was the ultimate act of boat restoration. You pulled out a tired block and dropped in a legendary, simple diesel. But on January 1st, 2026, the Marine Compression Ignition Amendment changes everything. Under the new Tier 4 final mandates, the EPA is closing the rebuild loophole that allowed us to keep vintage iron alive. If you are caught installing a non-compliant mechanical engine in a hull that requires a digital, emission-controlled unit, fines start at $45,000 per violation. The industry wants to turn your engine room into a black box that only a certified technician can touch. They want to make self-reliance a crime. But there is one technicality buried in CFR Title 40 that still protects the sovereign sailor, if you know how to cite it. Is this about the air we breathe, or is it a calculated move to force every old boat into the scrapyard? There is a reason the old Perkins 4108 and Lehman 120 became legends among those of us who live and die by the engine room. You could tear one down with a socket set, a hammer, and a tube of gasket goo. Then get it running again with nothing more than a parts kit and a borrowed bench vise. The ritual was always the same: lay out the spares, injector washers, a lift pump diaphragm, a set of glow plugs, a length of fuel hose, and a battered manual with pages stuck together by diesel and hope. There is a particular pride in knowing your engine's every leak and rattle. I have watched owners swap stories on the dock, sleeves rolled up, hands blackened, arguing over the best way to lap a valve or free a stuck rack. Forums are filled with scanned torque tables, hand-drawn wiring diagrams, and tales of midnight fixes in far-off anchorages. The culture of repair is tactile, noisy, and irreverent. You learn to trust your senses, the metallic tink, tink, tink as the block cools after a hard run, the sharp tang of raw diesel on a cold morning, the cough and rumble as a mechanical pump brings an old engine to life. No computer stands between you and the iron. If something fails, you reach for a wrench, not a diagnostic dongle. The only code you care about is the one in the shop manual, not something blinking on a screen. Every spare kit is a kind of talisman, a promise that, come what may, you will get home under your own power. It is not just about saving money. It is about the right to fix, to improvise, to keep a boat alive long after the manufacturer has moved on. That is the world these new rules are about to erase, one regulation at a time. Down on the docks, independence is not just an attitude, it is an economic reality. When you own a mechanical diesel engine, you are not just saving pennies, you are dodging a financial torpedo. A new Tier 4 compliant marine engine, complete with selective catalytic reduction, diesel particulate filter, and enough sensors to make a Tesla blush, will set you back $40,000 to $50,000 before you even pay the yard for installation. Compare that to the classic barter economy, a used Perkins block, a box of spares, and a Saturday's worth of elbow grease. Maybe you trade a case of beer for a rebuilt injector pump, or swap a spare alternator for a working starter. No one is scanning a QR code or logging into a compliance dashboard. The only registry is the mental tally of favors owed and repaid. That is not nostalgia, it is survival math. A legacy engine, properly cared for, can outlast 3 new hulls. Owners keep them running for decades, scavenging parts from scrapyards and estate sales, fabricating brackets out of angle iron, and trading wisdom at the end of a pier. The cost of a full, do-it-yourself rebuild may be $2,000 all in, if you know where to look and are not afraid to get your hands dirty. For many, that is the difference between another season afloat and a forced march to the auction block. The real price of losing open iron is not just sticker shock, it is the slow death of a community that survives by fixing, not replacing. Every regulation that pushes us towards sealed digital engines chips away at the last place where self-reliance and seamanship still mean something. The numbers do not lie. Mechanical freedom is the only thing keeping some boats and their owners above water. Picture the Cummins QSB 6.7 Tier 4 final, slotted into the engine bay of a 35-foot sloop. The numbers are blunt. 1.27 meters long, 0.91 meters wide, 0.86 meters tall, and 658 kilograms dry. That is before the aftertreatment hardware even enters the conversation. Selective catalytic reduction, diesel particulate filter, and a DEF tank crowd the compartment, each demanding its own space, each adding mass. The old Yanmar 4JH4 HTE, by comparison, weighed just 217 kilograms and slipped in with room to spare. The Delta is 400 kilograms, nearly half a ton, now pressing down on the stern, shifting the boat's center of gravity aft. The DPF alone claims the space of a small beer keg, plus a 100mm buffer on all sides to keep the heat from scorching the woodwork. During regeneration, the filter's temperature spikes to 650 degrees Celsius, hot enough to destroy standard insulation and threaten any wiring or hoses nearby. The SCR module, with its urea dosing pump and catalyst block, needs yet another chunk of real estate downstream. Each exhaust bend must sweep a 150mm radius, not for convenience, but as a warranty condition. In a bay designed for a compact block, every centimeter is contested. DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, brings its own set of demands. The tank must hold at least 5% of the hourly fuel burn for a 6-hour passage. For a 200 kilowatt engine, that is at least 12 gallons, roughly the size of a barrel, plumbed with heated lines to prevent freezing. Every bit of this system eats into the storage once reserved for tools, spares, or emergency supplies. Weight is not just a statistic. Add 400 kilograms aft, and the center of gravity shifts by 0.12 meters. That is enough to cut the righting arm by 5% at 30 degrees of heel, making the boat more vulnerable in heavy weather. Reinforcing the transom and engine beds means hauling out, welding in new steel, and risking damage to the hull or deck. What once was a straightforward engine swap now becomes a 6-week dry dock ordeal, with costs climbing into 5 figures. All of this is mandated by regulation. CFR Title 40. Part 1042.605 requires installation if it is possible, regardless of cost or complexity. The law does not care if the hull must be cut to make it fit. If there is a way, it must be done. If not, the old engine is banned. Space, mass, and heat are now the deciding factors for every mechanical diesel afloat. Now, let's talk about the real trap, the black box. Not the one they fish out of airplane wrecks, the one that is welded, encrypted, and bolted to the top of every Tier 4 marine diesel from 2026 onward. It is called an ECU, the engine control unit. In theory, it is the brain that keeps your emissions clean and your engine running smooth. In practice, it is a digital gatekeeper, and it has the legal muscle of the Federal Register behind it. Forget the old days of a sticky throttle cable or a leaky injector you could fix with a screwdriver and a prayer. With Tier 4, every function, timing, fuel delivery, and exhaust after treatment is routed through the ECU. A single failed sensor, a corroded CAN bus connector, or a hiccup in the diesel exhaust fluid dosing pump, and the system throws a fault code. The classics are P0600, P2463, U0100, each one a little digital middle finger. The result is limp home mode. That is the official term. The computer slashes your torque to 30%, disables after treatment, and flashes a warning. If you are lucky, you crawl to a dock. If you are not, you drift, dead in the water, because a $9 exhaust temperature sensor got damp. I have seen it happen. I have read the Coast Guard's incident logs. The engine does not care about your seamanship, your weather window, or the rocks under your keel. It only cares about its own digital checklist. Here is where the insurance companies get involved. The new policies, written in legalese thicker than a service manual, now require proof of Tier 4 compliance and digital product passport registration for any repowered vessel. Miss a software update, skip a diagnostic, or install a non-compliant part, and your coverage evaporates. There is already a case in the Pacific Northwest. A trawler owner tried to retrofit a Tier 4 kit. The diesel particulate filter overheated, the engine went limp, and the insurer denied the claim because the paperwork did not match EPA records. No digital product passport, no payout. The fine print is the real hazard, not the weather. And let's not kid ourselves, this is not about cleaner air alone. The digital product passport is a serial numbered leash. Every new engine gets a cryptographic tag logged in a federal database. Try to swap a block off the books and the system flags you face $45,000 in fines. The law does not care that your old Perkins could run on kerosene and stubbornness. If a compliant engine can be made to fit, even if it means cutting the hull in half, you are legally barred from reinstalling your open iron. The black box wins by default, so the next time someone tells you that the right to repair is alive and well, ask them how they plan to clear a P2200 fault code in a lee shore gale with nothing but a wrench and a headlamp. I will wait. Here is where the legal tripwires get buried, right in the dry, bureaucratic prose of Title 40 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 1N 42.605. You want to keep your open iron, your fixable block? The law says you can, but only until you cross one of three invisible lines: a major overhaul, outright replacement, or if you are lucky, legacy protection. Let us go straight to the statute, because the devil is not in the definitions. A so-called major overhaul is not just a full rebuild. According to section 142.605, subsection C, if you replace, for example, the catalyst or touch the exhaust after treatment hardware, anything beyond routine maintenance, you are in the crosshairs. The text is blunt. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for every sensor, every catalyst, and document pressure drop checks. Miss a step, skip a record, or fudge a measurement, and your innocent tune-up becomes a regulatory trigger. That is when Tier 4 rules snap shut. Now you are not just fixing your engine, you are supposed to retrofit it with a diesel particulate filter, selective catalytic reduction, and a diesel exhaust fluid tank, or remove it entirely. Replacement, by contrast, is even more unforgiving. Section 142.605, subsection E, points you to 40 CFR 1068.240, the so-called replacement engine exemption. But do not let the word exemption fool you. The only way you get to install a non-Tier 4 engine is if it is identical in emissions, model year, and after treatment to the one you are pulling. Try to swap in a used block from the same family. It must match down to the certification sticker, or you are in violation. And if a compliant Tier 4 engine can be made to fit, even if it means cutting steel, moving bulkheads, or emptying your wallet, the law says you must do it. Cost, complexity, or the fact that your boat is now a floating science project are irrelevant. The statute does not care. The so-called legacy clause is the only real shield left. If your engine was lawfully installed before the amendment and you have not overhauled or replaced it, you are grandfathered, at least until you need a major fix. But the moment you cross that line, whether by necessity or accident, you are forced into the Tier 4 labyrinth. It is not the EPA coming to rip out your Perkins tomorrow. It is the slow choke of paperwork, definitions, and cross-referenced clauses that make DIY repair a legal minefield. The rules do not punish maintenance, they just redefine it until it is indistinguishable from a crime. Paperwork is no longer just a nuisance, it is a loaded trap. The EPA and CARB have armed themselves with a new arsenal, the Digital Product Passport, DPP. Every Tier 4 engine rolling out of a Yanmar or Cummins warehouse after 2025 is tagged, tracked, and registered in a federal database. No more swapping a block in the shadows or passing off a used engine with a wink and a handshake. If you try, you are staring down the barrel of a $45,000 fine per engine, not per vessel. That number is not a scarecrow, it has been enforced. I have read the memos. In June 2024, Operation Clean Marine swept through 10 marina shops in Florida and the Gulf, undercover agents in ball caps and boat shoes asking for Tier 4 conversions off the books. 10 citations, $450,000 in fines, and a stack of seized engines. One shop owner told me the EPA database flagged his serial number before the invoice even printed. The DPP is not just a sticker, it is a digital leash. Each engine's cryptographic tag gets matched to a hull ID, installation date, and owner. Change anything, a major overhaul, replacement, even a sensor swap, and the system expects a new entry. Skip the paperwork and the compliance portal flashes red. The agency can audit your logbooks, check your DPP status, and cross-reference with the manufacturer's records. No DPP, no legal engine. Try to skirt the system, the penalty lands like a sledgehammer. The 2024 Blue Water Sting in Miami hit a yacht charter company for $90,000. 2 engines, 2 missing DPP entries, and a side order of record-keeping violations. CARB's Pacific Coast audit in 2025 caught 4 small charter boats running undocumented Tier 4 retrofits, $18,000 per hull, plus a mandatory retrofit and database update. The manufacturers are complicit too. Yanmar's 2023 memo laid it out, all 4JH series legacy engines gone after December 2025. No more after treatment kits, no more parts. Cummins followed with a no retrofit policy for the QSB 6.7. If you want compliance, you buy new, you register, you play by their rules. The supply chain is drying up by design. Every move is tracked, every serial number cross-checked. The message is clear, the era of open iron is being strangled by a paper chain, 1 DPP entry and 1 5-figure fine at a time. You do not need a SWAT team to kill do-it-yourself repairs. All it takes is a database and a deadline. If you want to keep your open iron alive past the deadline, your only shield is paperwork, and you had better get it right the first time. Here is your checklist. Original engine certification file, all installation invoices, and a completed EPA Form 35205. That is not just busy work. The law says you must submit this to the EPA within 30 days of any major overhaul, replacement, or so-called repower event. Miss the window, and you are not just behind on paperwork, you are in violation, and the fine of $45,000 per engine is not theoretical. I have seen it land on desks like a brick through a windshield. August 2025 is your practical cutoff. After that, parts vanish, and the digital product passport system goes live. Every serial number, every hull ID, every owner gets tagged and tracked. If you are planning a swap, surveyors will want dated photos, torque specs, and a signed compliance statement from a certified mechanic. You will need digital logbooks, proof of sensor calibrations, and an ECU software printout if you are running Tier 4. Keep every document for 5 years. EPA and CARB can audit at any time, and they do. If you are not sure, call a marine surveyor or a maritime attorney before you so much as loosen a mounting bolt. This is not just about keeping your boat legal, it is about survival in a system that is rigged to say no. There is a kind of reverence in the engine room that never made it into the rulebooks. I have knelt on cold steel plates, hands deep in oil, listening for the heartbeat of a Perkins or Lehman. Just the slow, honest music of pistons and valves. No screens, no passwords, just a world you can touch and fix. The diesel smell clings to your skin for days. A badge of honor nobody at the EPA will ever understand. Every scar on your knuckles, every battered tool in your roll is a record of survival. One more storm weathered, one more breakdown bested by stubbornness and skill. That is what is being written out of existence. Not just machines, but the right to know your own boat, to keep it alive with your own hands. The new rules want to turn every engine room into a sealed vault, locked behind diagnostics, compliance portals, and serial-numbered passports. They want to replace the language of wrenches and intuition with QR codes and firmware updates. I have seen what happens when that connection breaks, when a sensor fault means a dead engine and a drifting hull, and your only recourse is a customer service line. So here is my eulogy. For every owner who has ever coaxed an old block back to life with a borrowed part and a prayer, For every midnight fix, that meant the difference between making port or calling for help. Mechanical independence is not nostalgia. It is the last stand for those of us who refuse to be locked out of our own engine rooms. And if that makes us outlaws, so be it. So here we are, on January 1st, 2026. If you so much as sneeze near a cracked injector, CFR Title 40, Part 104 2.605 can force you into a Tier 4 final engine with selective catalytic reduction and diesel exhaust fluid requirements, tracked by serial number, no matter how lovingly you rebuilt your open iron. Mechanical independence is not outlawed, but it is being engineered into extinction. The last refuge is your bilge. Guard it. I dare you to comment below.